Air on a G-string is what happens when I cross-dress and eat Mexican food. Hi, welcome to the Silver Spleen. My name is Rob Kummer, and this is my review of G Affairs. There's a new genre in Hong Kong film, the political art movie. I guess this current trend started with 10 years. I liked most of the segments in it, except the second one, which was so self-absorbed it made sponges jealous. There have been a number of what I'd call socially conscious films in the last few years in Hong Kong. Movies that take a hard look at things we might otherwise want to just look away from. Happiness, Mad World, Tracy, and Distinction are just a few of them. I really enjoyed these movies because they were serious stories about serious subjects, but I also enjoyed them because they weren't pretentious, self-reverential, sick art films. That's also the reason that I really didn't enjoy G Affairs. It's pretentious, opaque, slow, and thinks it's a hell of a lot smarter than it really is. How pretentious is G Affairs? Art films always have to have classical music. That fucking accordion. It opens with Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 in G major. Over the sound of the cello, there's stylized monochrome animation of flying birds and trees bereft of leaves. The gentle scent of chamomile wafts over the... I'm kidding, you can't smell anything in movies. Reviews, on the other hand... See? I can do art too. I have a PhD, and here I am doing fart jokes. But I'm doing it to illustrate a point. G Affairs tells the story of students at an elite secondary school who face bizarre, unrealistic situations in their daily lives because China is trying to erase Hong Kong. No, really, that's what this movie is about. I understand their perspective and I really want to sympathize, but I can't like this movie because of its execution and a lot of its content. It's a grossly pretentious art movie with symbolism that a 12-year-old would find immature and underdeveloped. G Affairs looks like a Wong Kar-wai film, but the political subtext, you know, the important part, it plays like a Wong Jing movie. And I don't even mean that as a dig at Wong Jing, but an art film with a supposedly really important political message shouldn't come across as more juvenile than Men Suddenly in Love. G Affairs, drops all the requisite buzzwords and ideas. DQ and Our Loving Mothers and petitioning Beijing and One Country, Two Systems. But it does so with all the subtlety and depth of a coloring book. Yes, Hong Kong's current leader has a name that in Chinese is almost the same as the words for gonorrhea. Does that mean you should make it a plot point? Even Wong Jing wouldn't stoop that low. Chapman Toh plays Chapman Toh. Again, still. And don't get me wrong, he's really entertaining playing, Chapman Toh. But at this point, he ought to be good at playing himself, right? That's not a euphemism. But again, the symbolism of G Affairs leaves absolutely nothing to the imagination, since it never went there anyway. Yes, in Hong Kong, bad cops are called black police, Hakeng. So is that why Chapman Toh is made up about 2 shades light of blackface? Speaking of painfully obvious, the thing about allegories is that they're supposed to be something that represents something else. But in one scene, this young student is literally being handed off from one mother who's articulate and educated. Her favorite author is Alexandre Dumas, of course. And terminally ill to a crude, uneducated, loud prostitute from China. That's not an allegory, that's juvenilia. But you know what? I doubt the criticism matters. In fact, I know it doesn't. G Affairs is quite obviously very pleased with itself. Unfortunately for all of us, I can't really find any reason why it should be. There's a recurring motif of using G as a chapter title. G for Gustav, G for girlfriend, G for get out of my face with your snobby horse shit. Pseudoscientific babble doesn't elevate your film to intellectualism. It just makes it sound like you're trying too hard. Did you know that Short-term memory differs from cognition. Did you know you sound like a pretentious cockknuckle? Yeah, I do actually know the difference. Short-term memory is the place in my brain where this movie will thankfully die a very imminent death. Cognition is something sorely lacking in the people that wrote this garbage. I have to say though, it's actually kind of amazing that anybody could make a film while simultaneously being that far up their own ass. Perhaps, unsurprisingly as well, this film did get a whole bunch of nominations for Hong Kong Film Awards. Among those are Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Supporting Actress. That one I actually agree with. Mainland actress Huang Lu is very, very good in her role, despite how badly it's written and how awfully she was obviously directed to play it. She plays the aforementioned prostitute from the mainland, and her accent is incredibly cartoonish, as is much of her wardrobe. Firemen, don't wear their protective gear to dinner when they're not working. Horizontal refreshment specialists don't dress like hookers when they go to dinner either, or to their stepdaughter's exclusive secondary school. It really would have been less conspicuous if she was butt naked wearing a sandwich board that said sex worker in 10 different languages on the front and back. It also would have been more believable. Now the weird thing is that the movie eventually wants us to kind of have sympathy for this character. So why did they take the first part of the film going so far out of their way to turn her into a cartoon? Gia Fares obviously cares much more about itself than any of the actors or, characters in this film, because both are exploited shamelessly. And I really do mean shamelessly. If you want to exploit, a teenage girl's sexuality, it would be really nice if it didn't come off as a cheap grab for edginess that this poor young actress is going to have to live with for the rest of her life. This entire film is so precocious and pretentious and contrived, it made me want to pull the rest of my teeth out. What is it with, Hong Kong art movies and classical music and screaming teenagers? Or, a supposedly elite school where nobody notices this special ed kid screaming about gonorrhea for like 3 minutes. I know that kid is supposed to be autistic, but he's not developmentally disabled. There's a difference. Gia Fares is more ham-handed than a barrel of pig's feet.
I love pig feet!
But hey, I'm really glad my tax money went to help it. Or not. Obviously, I didn't enjoy this movie. I felt insulted by it. I got that feeling I get too often with these kinds of films, these very pretentious films, like, oh, these people are so smart and they're laying pearls of wisdom before us. No, you're not. You're using cheap, stupid stuff that just doesn't hold up to any kind of scrutiny. So take your movie and shove it where the rest of your world belongs. I don't even know what that means. I'm just angry. But never mind. If you want to watch this movie, don't. But if you do, somehow pay for the privilege. I mean, I paid to watch this movie, and maybe that's why I'm so angry about it, but that doesn't mean it's okay for you to watch it for free, so don't do it. Speaking of watching for free, I know that most of you do watch this for free, because I've been doing this for 6 years, and it's not like I'm rich. It's not like I'm really making a lot of money, but, I could make a little more money if people decided to be generous, and I understand, especially if you like those kinds of movies, you're certainly not going to give me money for talking terribly about them, but if you did want to give me money, I'm trying to make it as possible as I can, and yet at the same time, not be too beggish. If you enjoyed this review, please let me know, and if you didn't, please let me know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.